afternoon. You're mute, Gary.
There you go. There you go. I just didn't want to interrupt. I was having a little bit of a cough in the background, so I put my mic on mute. And there you go. So again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's not the breakfast show. It's the 2 p.m. show with myself, Gary the Geordie Yam Yam, as well as my right-hand man, Derek the Mighty Yam Yam. The Mighty Yam Yam, the Mighty Win. We're gonna have a great show today. Anyway, welcome. I suppose what we got to do before we do anything else is, as always, the housework. So again, welcome to everybody that's watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to all the mods working in the background. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy the show. Just helps us get further as a channel to other NUFC supporters. Subscribe. It's totally free. Hit that bell for future content. We do 6-7 days a week content, nearly all the time as a live content. With a couple of recordings. If you want to help us, help the channel grow, you can become a member for a small monthly fee, and that'll give you a chance of winning a prize at the end of each month, as well as behind the scenes videos and things like that some of the other contributors do. You can also have a look at our webpage, nufctalk.tv, for all the update content. It's a totally ad-free. But like I say, if you've got 5 minutes and you want to just have a look across there, all the predictions and things like that are there from previous games, and obviously we've got videos from previous games, and we're updating it regularly. So we are going to try and do a lot more of the live stuff on there as well. So like I say, have a look at that if you've got 5 minutes. If you've got a question for me or the Mighty, then obviously you can put a Q in front of that question. Not guaranteed, by the way, if you do. But if we look at it and we find it relevant, then obviously we'll discuss it. But if you want to guarantee it, then you can use that $sign. Follow the instructions and send us a super chat. That will guarantee the message read out. And anybody that becomes a member during the show, or any of our lovely members that want to gift a membership out there, will be thanked and highlighted as we go along the show. So, how are we
And
this fine?
PDK, not with a question, but with an instruction. Graph suit. Get your graph suit for the lads.
Get the graph suit. He loves his graphs, our PDK. It's, well, to be fair, it's not more. I mean, it's not a graphs day today, but we have got some slides to show you because it's a strange one, and it all stemmed from, if you like, it is something that I read from Craig Hope, and we'd spoke about the squad previously and what Eddie Howe has had to do to try and make a squad out of the players that he'd already got. And we went back and had a look at some of the teams of the past, of the years gone by, from the Steve Bruce era. And I couldn't believe, and neither could you, when we look at the percentage of players that Newcastle still have from the Steve Bruce era. But before I go into that, I just thought it would be quite a nice start to the show, just to read out what Eddie Howe said, and this is literally what Craig Hope has put down. And I thought it was quite a lovely report if you've not read it. So it goes on to say, Howe was far more focused when asked on Tuesday what needs to be done for Newcastle to compete at the very top. And don't forget, it is Al Rumayyan's stated ambition to be number one in the world. We certainly need, if we are looking to catch the teams above us, to drastically improve everything we are delivering. Still, said Howe, who is without a first team signing in 2 years because of the PSR limitations. That goes right across the board at every department of the club. We have so much to do to get to the top. It's not going to happen just by thinking it. It's not going to happen by willing it. We have to actually deliver it. That takes money, that takes investment, that takes smart and strategic thinking, which I know is going on at the club. Then we need to implement it. So both me and the Mighty decided to have a little bit of a conflab about today's show. And we were both, oh, there you go. America Mag has gifted. Thank you so much. The gaffers in the background. And just going to have a quick look at who they've gone to. So Boki has got one.
Jose
Macias. Very nice. Mr. Mutant, Medell, and Mad Mag.
Medeli, is it?
Medeli, yeah.
Maybe Mad
Medeli.
Ellie. Who
Mad
knows?
Ellie. Yeah, who knows? Potential. And
Colton Connor just became a member.
Thank you ever so much, guys. Yeah, superb. Thanks ever so much. So what we've decided to do is literally have a look at
just to double up on that. It's not going to happen by thinking it. It's not going to happen by
willing it. Yeah.
It's not going to happen by willing it.
Yeah.
So the other thing that prompted this particular, thank you, Trolls. The other thing that prompted this particular show, and that's gone to Will, the membership. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trolls.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get him to do most of the messages because I'm having so much trouble with these glasses. My sweet spot is up here, and I look like a bit of a plonker when I have to stretch my neck.
It just looked like a bit of a plonker full stop.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But this prompted by a heated discussion in the WhatsApp group. If you're not in that, get in it. Which people say, I was just getting more and more annoyed at this idea that we, Newcastle United, should be winning stuff, should be in the top four. Where there's nothing about our club which, other than fans' expectations, unrealistic expectations, in my opinion, that say we should be anywhere near the top four in terms of revenue generated, in terms of squad value, in terms of money spent. Nothing says we should be in the top four. And until we start making those investments, we have got no entitlement whatsoever to expect to be there. And I honestly believe that where we are now is largely, if it wasn't for Eddie, we wouldn't be there. Would be Wilton, where we should be around 8, 9, 10, 11 in the league, which is where all of the wages, the investment, everything, as we'll show you shortly, has us. And to expect, I use the word expect, anything more than that is simply unrealistic. There's no more optimistic fan than I am. And I said that given a fair wind with no injuries, which obviously we haven't had, we've had, two of our key players out for prolonged periods of time this season. And I think if we'd had Botman in all season, and if we'd had J7 in all season, we would have those extra few points that would have us right up there. Hopefully they're coming back shortly, and let's just see where we go from there. But in yet another final, which, everybody seems to think that we're the only club that expects to be winning cups and in finals and things. There's 20 clubs in the Premiership who all expect to be doing that. And there's at least half a dozen who have far more valid arguments for being there than what we have. So that's my little bit of a starter for 10.
So, when just before we go any further, because like I say, I'm struggling with these glasses until I get my new prescription. Can you just check the comments and just star any that's coming through?
Yeah,
so let's just go across onto what I've got set up here. So just so we've got some idea of where we are. I've put two teams down here. The team of 2021. Unfortunately, I've got two keepers in my 11, so I'm going to have to play Dubravka as my sweeper keeper, as my backup, with Kraft, Lascelles, Shaw, and Jamal Lewis. So obviously, he's back at the club from his loan spell from was it Boca or Santos? Well, I can't remember where he went to. I think it was Boca, wasn't it? Obviously, we got Joe Linton and Longstaff in the middle with Willock and Murphy out on the width, with Wilson up top. So this was the Stevie Brucey team, and I've obviously now put our team of 24-25. And as you've just noted there, apart from J7, I would say now, who seems to be a regular in our midfield, the general, and potentially Dubravka, who seems to be in and out the team at the drop of a hat. There's not many of these 11. Shaw, obviously, because we haven't got obviously a right centre back to replace him. So Shaw, well, there's three of them, isn't there? And Wilson does cameos, Willock does cameos. Obviously, Murphy, since we've seemed to have settled over this season, seems to have cemented a place on the right side until there's somebody else comes in. Again, limitations due to PSR has stopped us getting any players in. Now, the one thing that I noted with this team, right, was the fact that in 2021, the season there, we finished 12th under Steve Bruce. It's more, I think it was 1920, if I'm honest with you. One of those, same team. Half of these bodies that Eddie Howe has got now to work with couldn't actually get into Steve Bruce's team. So, I'm going to ask you, Win, is how has Eddie Howe changed these 11, and I'm say 10 because I'm just counting Gillespie as he's the team man, to become part and parcel of the team of 24-25?
And I argue that he's done that because he is a fantastic coach in terms of improving players' fitness and techniques. Fitness is one of the primary things, which, again, as we discussed, could conceivably be responsible for the horrendous injuries we had in 23-24, because to get them to that level of fitness that enabled us to qualify for the Champions League in 22-23, he had to work them into the ground. You know, the players, the notable players that we've signed, who've publicly commented on the fact that they thought they were fit when they came here, but by God, they discovered that they weren't fit. You know, I'll give you Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon in particular. Said, you know, we thought we were fit till we came here.
Till we got on board.
Suddenly we realised we weren't.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the things that he does. And part of a major part for me of the success of 22-23 that made it such a brilliant season, my favourite ever, was the fact that we ran teams into the ground. You know, teams could keep up with us. For the number of goals we got in the last 20 minutes in those games was phenomenal, because they could keep up with us for an hour, for 70 minutes, but after that, we just used to take over. And that's one of the things he does very well. Now, my reservations about Eddie are, you know, they're no secret. I've said it a million times. I'm not happy with his in-game management at times. I'm not happy with his initial selection at times, and I'm not happy with his substitutions at times. But his other qualities in terms of his coaching ability and his man management. Now we've just witnessed what appears to be very dubious man management recently when he dropped Dubravka. That was something that for me was very un-Eddie-like, and you know I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when he had the conversation with Dubravka, telling him that Pope was starting against Forest. But let's see who starts tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's who starts tonight,
and it could well be that Dubravka starts tonight, and that was all part of the conversation that Eddie had with him. I kind of hope so. Well, I do hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've done now is I've gone and had a look. Now I haven't, I've gone from the start of season 2021 to the end of season. So I've just picked the odd games out to see who was in the lineups and who wasn't. Apologies, this is quite small, so I'll do my best to try and get it so it fits the screen. And again, when you look at the start of the season, 2021, I mean, don't forget, we've only just lost Miggy as well, haven't we? So he would have been another name if we'd have done this in January to the list. And at the minute, we've only got 2 players in the squad. You go across again to another squad. You've got 2 players in this squad. I'm not counting Isaac Hayden. Hold on, go down to this one, and you've got, you've got 1 player in this one. It's very much to me, it's Stevie Bruce. I mean, I haven't gone and had a look at whether we got lots of injuries, why players were in and out, but he seems to be shuffling the team so much, didn't he, between that season 2021, where we never knew what formation was going to be out. We never knew what type of style of play. It was very negative most of the time. But when I actually look back at how he used to set up his teams, J7 being up front, being out wide, being in the middle, he was all over the shop at the times. Jacob Murphy being the same. 1 minute he was right wing, then he was a number 10, then he was at the back. It all over the shop when it comes to it, and I was pleasantly surprised to see the amount of bodies that we've got. Like say, Emil Kraft as our right back, J7 and Wilson up top with Longstaff in the middle, and like say, Almiron's just gone anyway. So again, it just goes to prove, doesn't it?
When was this from? Was this from Bruce or from Eddie?
This is Bruce. This is going from 20 to 21. Obviously, in 21, we got Eddie coming about, was it November time? November time?
Just because you've got Longstaff in there, and the whole point about Bruce was he didn't play Longstaff at all.
Well, he did, because this is the end of 21. So this is the season where obviously Eddie and Stevie Bruce left and Eddie come on board. So these are all Brucey's teams.
Right. Because as I recall, Longstaff couldn't get a game under Bruce.
Well, neither could Fabian Schär.
No, I know Fabian Schär couldn't, but
yeah, so there was a lot going on, wasn't there? That just didn't look at the races for me.
And where's ESM?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know
because that was ASM played whenever he wasn't injured.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know whether ASM was injured in this one and Matt Ritchie jumped in or what. But all I'm saying,
well, I suspect it would be ASM in for Longstaff. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So, but what I was saying was that at the end of the day, what you've got to look at is there's a maximum of potentially 4 players at any one time out of the 11 that Eddie Howe has got as a reserve team that seem to be able to get game time now. Now, the one thing that I suppose you can say, what was Steve Bruce missing? Well, I know people will say, a lot. When he wasn't playing the players now that Eddie is to rely on. For me, you can see strengths and weaknesses. Now, I know Eddie's a different coach and he's a different man's man, and we've all heard about Stevie Bruce would rather go and play golf rather than coach. But obviously, he wasn't getting the best out of the 11 players that Eddie has to pick from.
Well, I think the main thing was fitness. That was the thing that happened. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight. That was why, even when Eddie took over, the results at first still didn't go our way. We were still getting beat and still down there at the bottom. It took a few months, 8 or 9 weeks to get those fitness levels up to where he wanted them to be. And that's the whole point. I mean, John Joe Shelby was another one.
Yeah.
Who said, he went on record and his handicap went down too under Steve Bruce because he was never in.
It was exactly. But you see, this is what I'm saying. At the end of the day, we all know what hills we've had to climb, right? Because of regulations that aren't anything to do with Newcastle. But on top of that, I mean, obviously you've worked really hard on one of your spreadsheets, which is I'm going to put up on the screen in a second. That we've picked out a couple of the big six teams, and we're going to have a quick look at the teams that they had in 21 and the players that they've retained. And to be fair, we said there's quite a canny comparison to Liverpool with us, isn't there, regarding money spent and the amount of players they've retained. The difference being the squad that they had in 21 compared to what we had in 21 is miles apart. And again, when we look at investments and everything else, and we've had many a moan at Ashley and everything else, keeping the books balanced, but it was one out and one in with Ashley nearly all the time, wasn't it? And it wasn't always of the correct standard. Well, it wasn't really never the correct standard. A couple of times he got it right, but there are a lot of the times he got it completely wrong in my eyes. So I just thought for us, I just thought it was, I suppose, I'll put it up on the screen and I'm going to let you explain this spreadsheet, okay?
Okay.
Because I think that's probably going to be the easiest solution. So I don't know whether you guys can see that because it's quite small on my screen, but it may be different when it comes on TV. So have you got it up for yourself as well? Because I mean, obviously you probably, there you go.
I know. The only thing is I can't scroll it because you've got it. So
I've got it, yeah. So
anyway, what you can see there, August 2021 and February 2025. And this, to start off with, this was Liverpool's squad. So the players highlighted in yellow are players that Liverpool had in their squad in August 2021 who are still in their squad now. So they've got 10 players who were in their squad then and they're still in their squad now. But look at those 10 players. Trent, going to Real Madrid. Alisson, one of the best keepers in the world. Luis Diaz. They've got Kelleher, who's their number 2. Canate, currently one of the best centre-backs in the game. Andrew Robertson, Mo Salah, Jota, Tsimikas, and Virgil van Dijk, again, one of the best centre. So that was what they started off with in 2025. And since then, the players they've bought, they've spent £318 million on. The value of those players that they retained for to get them on their books in the first place cost them £363 million. They are the two figures at the bottoms of the columns. So their current squad cost them £674 million. Now, if we go down, Barry.
I will do, Bob. But I'm just going to say, if you have a look at Liverpool on the right-hand side where you can see the club's wages, you can see Liverpool at 5th with £128 million pounds in wages. Just so you've got some idea of where we're coming from. Coming down...
on the right, I was going to come to wages later on, but anyway...
Yeah. But that's what I said, if you look at the individuals...
then you've got Man City... Again, the players highlighted in yellow are who they had, and they've still got those there now. But those players that they had cost £606 million. Those players that they've still got. And they've added to that another £578 million worth. Actually, I'm telling lies. These values are all in euros, so they're all comparable, but they're actually euros. So their current squad cost them £1.1 billion to assemble. And if we go down again, so that's Liverpool, Man City, and there's Arsenal, the same again. They've only got 6 of the players left that they started with in 2021. And those players cost £215 million, and they've added £542 million worth to them, giving it a total squad value of £757 million.
Yeah.
Now compare that to Newcastle.
There you go.
These players in yellow were there in 2021, and they are still in our current 24 who are registered with the Premier League for the second half of this season. So we've got 11 players, 3, 5, 8, 11 players yet, who are still with us. Now, those players cost us originally £140 million, and we've added £437 million worth to that, giving us a total squad cost of £577 million. So you compare that £577 million with, if you go back up again, with £757 million, £200 million plus less than Arsenal, half of what...
Yeah, exactly.
Half of what Man City's cost.
And then you've, like I say, the only comparable is
Liverpool, and Liverpool are there or thereabouts because they did good business. You know, they got the likes of Robertson for $9 million. Salah only cost them $42 million. Van Dijk, fair enough, cost them $85 million, and Alisson $63 million. But anyway, their squad cost was still more than double what our original squad cost was. We were our original squad cost $128 million to their $363. It's nearly treble, actually. Their original squad was treble what ours cost. And again, if you look at their wages, they are paying £128 million a year in wages, which is £30 million a year. That's £600,000 a week they are paying more than what we are. And those wages in particular were what Darren Neal highlighted, if you remember, in the Amazon documentary, when he was saying you can, if you look over the years, you can directly correlate the amount of money spent on wages with the amount of points that clubs get. So on that basis, Newcastle should be finishing 9th, because we are only the 9th highest payer total squad wages for the year, are the 9th highest in the Prem.
Now, there's a couple of people that I've just seen in the chat, because you've put down Luis Diaz coming in at in 21, but I'm just looking at the screen now, and he apparently he came in at in 22, which I've just confirmed. I'm just trying to look at the screen now and see what we've got on there.
Well, all that would mean is that 53 million
just comes off
the original squad cost
and goes on the other one.
And goes on the other one. So
it's still the same, isn't it?
In real terms, all it means is that that's one player less that they've actually brought from 2021. But that was in the 21-22 transfer market season, I know.
Right. Well, that's what I said. I mean, we can only go on the information that we get.
All of this information, by the way, is from Transfermarkt.
Yeah, exactly. And, there is errors across the board on that. So, like I say, there's probably going to be one. But if it moves from one column, it just means it's going to go on to the other column anyway. The money's not going to change. And he's still
getting paid the same wages. And
exactly.
The wages are from Capita, so...
Yeah.
They are right.
So, it does prove how far we are behind when it comes to the structure of the team, doesn't it? You know, when you look at where we are compared to, the people around us. So the question is, is the reality is Eddie Howe has got a limited resource regarding the quality of players that he's got to support the 11 that he's bought in, right? That's the top and bottom of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, because we're getting there, let's have a look at some of these chats. So PDK is saying, "I want to rest our stars tonight," and Tiger, surprisingly, who I agree with, that doesn't happen very often, says, "Why PDK?" Because I certainly don't. Kenny says, "So play a weakened team, get thrashed off Liverpool, and that gives them 100% confidence going into the cup final. What bloody logic is that?" So PDK comes back, he says, "It's been a long season. If we get hammered, the lads don't play well, not having it in mind that they're in the final." Well, if that's what's in their mind, they're the wrong sort of characters, get rid. Tiger says, "You said top 2 without signings." I said top 2 with a current squad, without injuries, with a fair wind. Top 2. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. We've had injuries. And I was also, by the way, expecting some additions in the January window. I said that at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think we all were, weren't we? We were all expecting at least 1 or 2 faces to come in to support the squad.
Didn't Win say top 4 Christmas, how should we start? I did indeed. I said, if we're not within 3 points of Champions League spot by Christmas, how should be sacked? But we were within 3 points. In fact, we were within a point of Champions League at Christmas. It's 60 years, Win. We've been patient enough. Time for a winning change. But just wanting it, this is exactly the point just here. It's been 60 years, da-de-da. We're due it, we're entitled it. It's time for a change. Willing it doesn't make it happen.
That's true.
It costs money, and we haven't got it. At least, we
have.
That's the annoying thing. We have got it, but we're not allowed to spend it. So that's the chat's caught up with.
So let's go back then. So with our current squad as it stands, and I mean, we looked at take some of the injuries out. out of the equation. We can now understand categorically the reasons why Eddie Howe, as I suppose I'm going to say, will reluctantly make changes, because the drop off of levels compared to obviously the players that he's brought in, his team have brought in, is twofold compared to what he inherited from the Brucey era. So when people point the finger at Eddie Howe and say he's a crap manager, yes, we can all say there's going to be times in his management era that he's made a mistake, because he has. It's fact. We all see it. You could also question, obviously, some of the decision making regarding substitutions, players being dropped. For me, though, I can only give credit where credit's due. And I think any manager that can take us from 11th in his first season, again, working with a lot of the players that was gifted to him from the Stevie Bruce era. So we went from 12th to 11th in his first season, up to 4th in his second season, and then finishing just outside the European slots in his third season.
And getting to a final in the first.
And getting to the final. Yeah, exactly.
The first full season.
With a Champions League as well. You know, that's something else you've got to think of, right? Is it the fact now that, as you said before, it's just an expected rather than a given, even with all of the constraints that Eddie Howe and his coaching staff have on a daily basis? Because they have only got a small pot to pick from.
Rather than going to say someone else said.
Yes, it depends on your aim. Again, we haven't looked at all of the squads, but if you go and have a look at any team that have continued to play in the Premier League since 21, have a look at the amount of changes that have been made to every single team, and then come back and have a look at the job that Eddie's done. Because to me, the job that he's done has been twofold. One, he's kept us going, as in the top. For me, top 8 is where they were alluding to on this trajectory, this project of theirs. It was going to be a slow start to bring the players in, to continue up the hill to get to the top tier. But because he's made that jump to 4th, is that the reasons why everybody now thinks we are automatic in getting a top 4 slot every season?
This is balmy, this. What has spending money, etc., got to do with how in-game management is when saying our players not good? Well, I'm saying a lot of the players aren't good enough,
like I said, you can only work with what you've got.
His in-game management depends on being able to bring other players in for the players that aren't performing. And
how many games this season? Let's ask Tiger, right? How many games this season have we seen a player coming off the bench and change the game? Can you answer that, Win?
Probably twice, and both occasions it's been Barnes.
Harvey Barnes? Yeah. You know, losing against Wolves, and he comes back and scores 2 crackers. So that's what I'm saying. When you're limited to the amount, if the game's not going your way, and I've said this from, multiple times, there's very few teams that are vying in the top 8 or 9, well, even the top 10, can't bring players in that can make a difference to a team. And unfortunately, every time it looks like, for me, and I don't know about yourself, we make changes, the drop-off in performance is massive.
Yeah, the substitutions make us worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
not better.
That, of course, can look really bad on Howe, but it's just the fact that the players that are coming on are not as good as the ones that are going off. Oh, he
I
has
know.
he has the gaffer having his two penneth in with his mate Tiger Cub. He's the Tiger Cub now. But Wynn said we have the money to spend, make your mind up. I think we have got the money to spend. I'm really looking forward to these accounts getting published because I want to know where the money's gone.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one when it comes out. You know, for me, all the evidence that we look at, it doesn't matter how far you go back. You know, when you've only got a very limited amount of players, and not all of those players that you've bought in are going to play well week in, week out. We've seen that. You know, we talked about Bruno against Forest. You know, didn't really do a lot, didn't set the world alight. We relied very much on players in the width to create the opportunities for us. Some will say some of those goals were very fortuitous because of the deflections went our way. And I always say, you've got to have a go. If you don't buy a raffle ticket, you don't win the monies, do you? And like I said, for me, and I've critiqued this a lot of the times this season, is we don't have enough shots at targets at times. And then, you know, you end up picking up the pieces afterwards if the ball spills out.
My biggest gripe right now is that when we're under the cosh, we don't just hoof it. We're still trying to play tippy tappy out the box, and get
zones.
caught out instead of just getting it, get rid of it, and say what happened. Trulls makes a great point here. He thinks Howe is an average manager but a great coach. Now here's the thing, and I've said this many times. I absolutely agree. He's a fantastic coach, one of the best. In terms of manage, and by that, what I mean is he's fantastic at improving players. When he's got the finished article, if he had 11 Brunos on the team, for example, and 5 on the bench, what can he do in that situation? And we don't know because he's never had it. And I worry that when we eventually get to that situation where we have got 15, 16 top players to choose from, will he then be the man to have the tactical nous to formulate plans for those players to go and win football matches against the other top teams? I don't know. And neither does anybody, because he's never been in that, he's never had that luxury. So we shall see. But right now, I still maintain there is nobody better for the job that he's currently doing. Not least of which, because he absolutely gets the club, and people underestimate how big a deal that is. He understands the people, he understands the mentality, he understands the ethos of the club, and the club is unique in that respect.
But so going back to where, again, a lot of people have criticised Eddie, you know, and the one we all said it was like a, you know, for me stuck out like a blind cobbler's thumb. Sometimes he will play players that aren't in form and have players that are better on the bench at times, and we saw that with Tonali and Longstaff. And for me, there's a thing where there's too much of a and I don't want to sound negative. There's too much of a protection towards certain individuals as well, by not allowing players to come on, and unless his hand is forced. And we saw that with Miley with the injuries last season. His hand was forced. Miley come in and didn't do himself any harm whatsoever. But obviously we've now realised that the growth plates were still growing and everything else. And because of all the playing at that level, he then got obviously some type of issue with his back. So, you know, Eddie is trying to manipulate the system and play the hand that he's got all of the time. Now, for me, like this season, we've bought in Asula. There's been many a time for me where I think Asula could have come on board, played down that right-hand side if you're not going to play him up top, and just stretch teams, especially teams that are pressing. Just give him a run out down there, and like you've just said, rather than try and play our way out of trouble, just get clear so we can breathe again, And again, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know whether that comes from Eddie Howe's coaching, his tactics when he's talking to these players on the training field, or whether it's the in-game management that's set up from the team. Because sometimes you just need the players to start doing something.
Well,
it
Eddie
doesn't
has
always have to come.
Eddie has this inherent reluctance to put players on the pitch if he doesn't think that they're ready and they know the way the team works and the team ethos and the fitness, of course, which was why, for example, he was reluctant, and I keep on bringing it up, reluctant to play Lewis Hall when he first came.
Yeah.
And everybody says, look, if he'd been playing... The point is, you don't know that if he'd put him on from the start when he first came, that he would have been playing like that. You just don't know it.
No. And to be fair...
We do know that since he put him in...
He's been outstanding. But to be fair, Win, there was a couple of times, and I recall Man City being one. Yes, he wasn't playing in a left-back position. He was playing left midfield. He had an absolute stinker. And I think that is another thing, Sometimes a lot of the youngsters need time to bed in, not just to like playing football. It's obviously the facilities, their home, wherever they're living. For a lot of the youngsters now, and I think we seem to forget, 20, 21-year-olds. I mean, when I left home, it was very difficult just to settle in when I was a young'un. You know what I mean? You still expect certain things, the home comforts. When you have to, I mean, like I say, I know these guys are paid some money, and they do get the digs are all sorted for them. There's not the pressures on there, but there's the pressures of moving away from home and the expectations of what they have got to do now they've moved up. And I think, like I say, there's only so much Eddie Howe can do when it comes to individual performances. But what I've seen from Eddie Howe with the squad that we've got is the players that we've retained from the Brucey days. He's made them into something. They're not spectacular, don't get me wrong. They're not the be-all and end-all, but they are working within the squad, and he is able to work with those said players and get results. Now, for me,
one of the biggest attributes a manager coach can have is to make the sum of the team greater than the sum of the individual players in it. To make the team as a whole better than the individual players themselves really are. And if anybody tells me Eddie Howe doesn't do that, and PDK is saying, so if wages means points and positions in the league, we should just give the squad more wages, right? No.
Doesn't work
because
like that.
What wages do is indicate the quality of the player. To get that player to come to your club, you have to pay him X amount of money. And I don't think there's any, well, there's a couple of notable exceptions, perhaps, obviously Isaac being one of them, that could probably get, in fact, almost certainly, get more money somewhere else. But that just proves what a good job we've done.
Yeah.
Signing him on a contract until 2028 on the wages that he is on.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, and preferably sooner rather than later, we're going to reward him with more money. which will that's going to knock our wages bill up. And of course, we would then be expecting, if we had more players like him, that we were paying more money to get in. So just paying shitty players more wages is not going to get you more points. Of course, it's not. But what you've got to do is have players who are worth those wages, which we haven't got.
Well, but that's the thing, isn't it? We have got it in one hand. We know it's there. We have the money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're governed and restricted to not being able to spend it. And like I said, I do think, and again, forgive me if I'm wrong out there in the chat and in viewerland, that I honestly believe that people don't realise how restricted we are. And I think the problem is like I say, because you've already reached fourth, the expectation is then to go on and I mean, I know you love to pull the praise and say we've got to be second this season. That's what I've put us. That's my prediction. Blah blah blah. And I know a lot of that.
Wildly optimistic. Wildly optimistic.
Absolutely. A lot of that is just the passion of you, isn't it?
This is what I say. All of the bedwetters who tell me I don't want success. I'm quite happy to have mediocrity. All that bollocks. Nothing's further from the truth. For me to say second this season, I'm putting my head on the line and saying that's what I think is possible.
Yeah.
And it's still possible, by the way.
Well, like I say, until it's mathematically not, then yes, it is. You know what I mean? It's like I said, you've only got to have a few wins now when, you could be up there challenging. You're not going to be challenging Liverpool, but you could be challenging Arsenal if they have a bit of a bad moment. But I mean, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, isn't it? And to me, that is the thing. But I'm still, I keep looking at some of the chat and questioning where we are. I saw Foxy put in there before. There's a lot of fans that praise Eddie Howe. There's a lot of fans that will criticise him, and there's no fans that sit in the middle of the road. Well, I'm a fan who actually praises nobody, but unless it's deserved. And I'm also a fan that criticises a lot of players, coaches, if it's also deserved, if it's something that you can note. The biggest problem is the fact that, realistically, I still live in the world of being, real. We're governed by what we can go out and spend. And now there's people who'll say, well, there's lots of freebies out there. Why haven't we gone for this and gone for that? Well, again, these are things that I can't answer because I don't know the truth behind it. Whether it is reluctance to keep throwing money into the wage bill, I don't know. Everybody, again, I'm looking at Rashford going to Villa, and at the present moment in time, that move seems to have worked for Rashford. Now, I'm going to go to Aston Villa, and at the start of Eddie Howe's tenure, we'd had a chance, or there was a lot of talk about Unai Emery coming. He was one of the favourites, certainly one of the fans' favourites to come and get the job. And, I look back at the reasons why, or some of the reasons that have come out to say that he didn't want the job at Newcastle because there wasn't the players for him to choose from. There wasn't the depth of squad that you're going to choose from. Now, if people out there say that Unai Emery is the likes of an elite manager because of the past, I disagree with that. But again, you look at the players that he's been able to go and bring into the squad because of the money that there's available for him. Now, obviously, we said at the start of the season, and there was a lot of backdoor handshaking going on and players being swapped around to try and keep them under the ceiling. But these are all players that weren't first team players. These are players that were all out of the eyesight, if you like, not going to fit into Unai Emery's vision. Eddie Howe hasn't got that ability. We've lost two players with Minte and Anderson. Now, yeah, Minte didn't play, but Anderson, he could have still done a job for us in that midfield. Saw that with Forest. And I still believe, with his integrity, his doggedry, his work rate for Nottingham Forest, is one of the reasons for where they are now. Yes, Chris Wood's going on and scoring lots of goals and they're conceding very few. They've got the most clean sheets in the league. But to me, they're all players that at one point Newcastle just didn't want. Didn't think they could do a job for us.
Well, I don't think that's
Anderson.
true. We didn't sell.
Well, Matt Sells was. Yeah, but what I'm saying is most clean sheets.
Didn't he do it St James's Park?
Yeah, well, he can't do it against Newcastle. Yeah, exactly. He can't seem to do it against Newcastle, but but again, you're only as good as
maybe he's a secret Geordie.
Maybe he is. And that's what I'm saying. I think the trouble is, we all look at potential and everything else, and for me, you've just got to look at what we've got, what Eddie's got to pick from. The performances are up and down, disappointing, yes, but when they're good, they're very good. Yeah. And that, to me, is a massive difference from the Brucey era, where it was so bloody boring, it was just terrible to watch. But what do we want?
Just to put this a bit to bed, I'd love to see the comparison against Villa. Listen, I was going to put Villa into the thing, and I was going to put another couple of teams from lower down the league in, just to compare them. That, as it stands, took 7 hours.
Yeah, I'm going
to compile, to extract all of the information from all over the place and put it all together. And be honest, I was I'd had enough by the time I did Liverpool, Arsenal, Man U, and us. Yeah. But what I will do, especially for you, Kevin, is I'll go and I'll do exactly the same for Villa, and you'll see, by the way, what he inherited and how much money he spent and what we can't have a look at what their wages are at the minute.
I was going to say.
Their wages right now. Oh no, I haven't got it handy. Have you got? Can you whip that back up at all?
What's that?
The
wages.
The wages.
Yeah, I can.
You don't need to get it up. Just have a look and see where Villa are on that table.
No problem. Where are we?
And by the way, Villa have just been fined by UEFA for breaking the 70%. But interesting that's all they've been is fined.
Well, that's what they said.
It's money.
Everybody else.
Now that money will come off there. It's effectively a cost, so it will. But I think it was 6 figures, wasn't it?
Yeah,
200,000 or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. But it's a slap on the wrist, really.
That's all it is.
So Aston Villa are 6th in the
So they are 6th in the league.
119.
Right.
Well, just under 120.
So they are they're up there or thereabouts with Liverpool.
Yeah. So
Liverpool are the team that are booking the
doing
trend.
really well when it comes. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just having a look at the just so we've got some idea and comparison. Just having a look at down the Villa side and Tyrone Mings. Obviously, Conser was at Villa at the time in 21.
Conser's still there now, isn't he?
Yeah,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So I'm just having a look at their side to see. Matt Targett was in there. Trust me, there ain't a lot that were in the side. McGinn. Has this gone down to 21, or is it still showing me? It seems as if.
Was Martinez there then?
Yeah, Martinez. Well, it's showing on here, but I think that hasn't changed from. But it's something that we can do. We
Cash
can have
was
a look
definitely
at.
there.
Yeah, definitely there.
They're St Dean when we couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
Thank God for that, because we wouldn't have got Lewis Hall with St Dean.
Well, no, but like I said, you can see the amount of players that teams have bought in from 4 years. That's what you're looking at, 4 seasons, and the vast majority of them have bought in, loads of players. Now, don't get me wrong, we've bought in loads of players. Hence, we've spent the 470 million. But when you look at the squad inherited from all of the teams, and that's why chose the select few, because these are the ones that are always going to be
They're the ones
vying
that we're
for
going to be
the
aiming for.
Premier League spots because of the team that they had originally compared to us. And I think that's what people forget. We've only brought in a select few players to compete in the area that we're competing in at the moment. And I've said all along, at this present moment in time, we are third to sixth, third on a really good, excellent season, sixth, seventh on an average season like we saw last season.
And then average season that was decimated by
with injuries. Absolutely. But what I'm saying to you, Win, and again, we can keep making excuses about the injuries because it was an excuse. I'm not denying that. But it's also
I don't say it was an
performances.
excuse; it was a reason.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that's the same, isn't it? An excuse or a reason. You can excuse him for that position. But for me, when I look at this season and us being in sixth at the minute, the performances have got to be better. You know what I mean?
So Kevin Bell is saying, and this is one of the major criticisms of Eddie, I think he was way too late bringing in Tonali. That's probably the only player I'd say not got it quite right. Well, you can argue that, but you can also argue that by making sure, like Lewis Hall, that he was absolutely right. You can argue too late insofar that, for example, the games he played for Italy, he was proven then that he was super fit because he was still going in the 93rd minute, running down that touchline for Italy. So fitness-wise, he was definitely fit enough. Was he ready tactically? Obviously, 2020 hindsight, you can say, of course he was.
Yeah, he's had a year training with us.
All we do know is that when he did bring him in, he was on fire and has been, he's been almost flawless since he did come in. Would that have been the case had he been in from the start of the season? We'll never know. You could probably argue, yes, it would, because he's that good a player. So yeah, you can count that as a negative, but you could also count it as a positive by saying
Jack
that
Burton here saying lazy to suggest we couldn't bring in players. So how is it? I'm just trying to work that one out. How is that lazy?
Expand your argument, young man.
I don't know where that's coming from, and I find it difficult to try and get on the end of. Is there anything else that we need to jump on board with the chat? Because obviously there's lots of people have their ideas. Paul Mitchell, Japadoni here. Paul Mitchell has only had one summer window, of course, so we can only hope he has plans for the upcoming summer.
There's lots of things.
You've got to understand though, mate, and I wanted to put this on. Look how many players that Man City took that we were very strongly linked to.
Yeah.
There was 3 players that they took in January that we were really close to, trying to get monies together.
Kusanov, certainly. We were the last man standing.
Absolutely.
Darren saying the game in 22, we were cheated by VAR.
That's so true as well.
Absolutely. So, we've done that one. Yeah, and we've done that one.
Can I just put this one up for Foxes?
Yeah.
Kamara, Tielemans, Freeze. Yeah. Now, I absolutely bang on there, Foxy. I said the one person I would have bought in from at Leicester was Tielemans, but it was wages. Apparently, wasn't something that Eddie Howe didn't look at. Is Tielemans? I think what's Tielemans on at Villa?
And by
220 something. 150.
But by the way, is that where he learned his lesson? Because then, when we went for Kelly, and by all accounts, Liverpool and Tottenham were in for Kelly, and because he was a free, you can afford to offer him more wages because effectively all you're doing is spreading the cost of the transfer fee. So we gave Kelly 150.
Yeah.
And now we're going to reap the benefits of that, albeit by him playing for somebody else. But I still think Kelly might have been a good player to have. We'll never know now. But yeah, so Tielemans went on 150. That would have made him our top earner. If we'd signed Tielemans on a free, he would have come into the club as the top earner. Here we go. All right, let's get some of these. Squad depth is hitting the team. It's a shame we didn't get two in the January window to freshen things up very much. Too much how out or how working miracles. Never seems to be any in between with fans, which is the true situation. Moments how can be praised, moments criticised. But if we get no Europe, he's out. Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably why we've had success in cups and do well against the top 6 teams, as we have a great first 11, but we don't have the squad to bring consistency over league games like Fulham, Bournemouth, etc. That's all of the stars.
So I'm just having a look
for now.
Some of the. I'm still looking at the Aston Villa side because I just find it really interesting. You know, I don't know.
I'll do it
if there's that many
next
players
breakfast
still
show.
there. There ain't many, I'll tell you now. John McGinn, I mean, obviously you're talking about McGinn. I mean, he went in 2018 to Villa. So, you know, it doesn't matter what he cost.
He was actually a player we were linked with to buy from Villa.
Yeah, I was going to say. But yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, there's lots of good players out there that we have missed on, and I'm not saying there ain't. I'm just for me, like I said, you work with the system that you have, and at this present moment in time, if they don't seem to have the footprint, and again, I can't make excuses up for the reasons why we haven't bought freezing. I can only assume, you know, it doesn't fit in Eddie's plans. The type of players that were available on freeze. Yeah, the one thing, Chiesa that went to Liverpool, you know, can't even get a game for Liverpool these days, and it does annoy you, doesn't it, to think that you know there is players out there of certain quality. Now I know he's injury prone, but I would have loved him to be, you know, on our team rather than at Liverpool, where he's literally just putting splinters in his bum off the bench.
But again, on big wages.
Yeah. I'm not saying they're not on big wages, Win.
And Kevin Bell, I think longer term terms of progress and development, we'd probably have been better off finish 7th and 4th instead of 4th and 7th, which is exactly what Villa did.
Yeah.
But look how they are faring now. Now they've got the Champions League on their plate. They're going to be lucky to finish top 8. So if Emery doesn't win the Champions League, which is, you wouldn't put it past him.
No.
Given his success in European competition.
No.
But highly, highly unlikely. And if he doesn't, it looks like he's not going to be getting in Europe this season.
We've got an interesting look on Friday because I don't know whether you've seen it, but the guarantees for 5th spot now for the Champions League looks very much like it's coming to an English club.
Well, 99%.
It's 100%.
It's 100% now.
It's 100% now. Yeah. Apparently, they've there's no other teams can take second place. Spain are joint with us at the minute, but like I say, nobody can actually jump above them at this present moment in time. So it looks like it's a 100% gimme. But I'm going to have to still have a look into it because I've only seen a small snippet of it. But maybe that's something that we can do on Friday.
Yeah.
So, anything else that's caught your eye? Because there's been a couple.
Darren saying fans chanting how out seem to be out of touch. How hasn't been back in the last 3 windows. Any other manager coming in would be having the same issues due to squad depth.
Absolutely. I just think, like I say, we're just too quick to point the finger, aren't we? I think it's human nature to point the finger. You know, I've been involved in an industry where it was a no finger pointing system, but it was, you know, you always knew who to blame type of thing. But for me, with Eddie Howe, like I say, I just think you've just got to give the lad a little bit of credit for what he's achieved. And yes, we can criticise because he has got flaws, But I haven't seen a manager that has inherited a team like Newcastle that hasn't had problems. And we look at you can look apart from the Liverpools. I mean, Arne Slot coming in at Liverpool. I mean, Chelsea are very up and down at the moment. We all
but
said we don't know
Arne
where they
Slot
are.
inherited Klopp's
That's
Liverpool,
what I said.
and they were a bloody good
Bloody
team
good
to
side,
start.
absolutely. And that's what I said. Is it easier to inherit a great team because all you've got to do is solidify it? And Arne Slot seems to have done that.
Yeah, he's done a great job.
He's done an amazing job.
But
And that's what I said.
Tulsi is saying, why haven't we sold the players that just are not good enough, like Target, Longcroft, Share, Dubs, and so on? Would do a lot better. First of all, you've got to find clubs that want to buy them.
Yeah.
For
And it's got to be money that's got to be valuable.
For anywhere near the money that we'll be able to utilise to buy other players in. And nobody wants them.
And then you've got to replace them.
And then you've got to replace them, exactly. And by the way, no matter what craft that Target. Question for you from Christopher. Gary, right now for me, we are a Europa League at the max side, because until Eddie sorts out the dropping tools, because there are some players who need selling and replacement that are better than even
Bruno's
Bruno.
form. And that's what we said.
Well, Bruno's he's going through a bit of a sticky patch, but we know how good he can be. So,
but then let's just throw this out there, right? So J7's injured. Bruno's poor performance again, and I'm going to say it, against Nottingham Forest. Who was on the bench to replace him? Who could have changed the game? Now, Tonali come on. Now, I'm going to throw a curveball towards Tonali. We all knew Tonali had a muscle soreness, potential injury, could have been exacerbated, even by bringing him on at 70 minutes. I honestly believe Eddie Howe didn't want to use him at all during that match. He wanted to protect him, but I think his hand was forced because of the drop-off in performance. Now, again, when you look at Tonali coming on, he didn't really solidify anything. He just, got stuck in a little bit more in that midfield. Didn't make any changes. But who could come on for Bruno, in any case, would have been Longstaff. Who else? What other midfielder have you got?
No.
That's what I'm saying. The quality that you lose by taking Bruno off. Now, he might not be having a good game, but we all know Bruno can just give you that ball into an area for you to go and run onto and potentially get that fifth goal. And I think that at the minute, that is the devil and an angel sitting on the shoulders, because with Eddie Howe, he has to make that decision about, he may not be playing well, but if he can just produce that ball to go on and get us a break on board, a goal, another goal, then superb. And that is the choice that he's having to make every game. Players that don't perform very well, who are you going to bring on that can perform better? There's no game changers out there. Like I said, Harvey Barnes has done it a few times, but I can't remember anybody else. I mean, Callum Wilson looked miles off, didn't he, against Forest?
Well, he did,
But he come on. You know what I mean? We've said, the goals that Callum Wilson can provide towards the end of the season could be the making of the top four.
I still maintain that, by the way.
Yeah, I know you do. And for me, again, he's a Newcastle player. I am not going to sit here and say I don't want a Newcastle player to perform well, because I do.
Trulls back in. Howe has already said he will never buy 4 to 5 players, and that is scary, seeing how he doesn't want to sell you. Where has Howe said he'll never buy 4 or 5 players? I guarantee you, if you said Eddie Howe, there's 4 or 5 70, 80 million pound players, you can have them. I guarantee Eddie's not going to turn around to you. No, I didn't want them.
I don't want them. Yeah. Not
nonsense.
In this current situation.
Oh, and nonsense, Trulls.
I think, like I said, whatever tournament gives the fans more matches to watch is very welcomed for me, said Fox. Yeah. And I think that, like I said, for me, I've said all along, if we can just get Europe, I'd be more than happy. With the squad that we've got, Europe has got to be the aim. Champions League is absolutely, for me, it's the pinnacle at this present moment in time with the squad that we've got. But if he can get top 7, because don't forget, if we've got 5 in the Champions League, 6 and 7 will be Europe. So for me, that's a must.
Yeah.
6th or 7th.
Let's just get this in quickly because Ronald Turnbull. Ronald, where is your Liverpool prediction? Yeah. You're one of the last ones we're waiting for. Can't keep on shepherding you. I said last summer that we should spend, and not worry. Yeah, that's what I said as well. And I still don't know why we didn't. But it will be interesting to see the accounts when they come out eventually. They're hiding because they know the mighty wind's waiting for them. I said, ooh, we better not put them out. Selling Bruno is the only way. We're not a selling club now, man. I want PIF to turn around and say none of our crown jewels are for sale. None of them.
Gary, bring on Barnes, buy him 10 money, Pellick.
Nathan saying, I felt we spent too much money on both Gordon and Barnes. Too much money on Gordon. We got him for 45 million. How much do you think we'll get for him now? Barnes, if you remember, we've been over this a million times, but Gordon was bought to be a right winger. But then when Barnes got injured for the season, immediately after we bought him. So we bought Barnes and Tonali to top up that 22-23 Champions League winning squad. We bought Barnes and Tonali. Barnes was out for the full season, for the gambling. And Barnes stubbed his toe getting out the bath or whatever he did, and he was off for the full season virtually as well. So the two players that we bought to bolster that Champions League attaining side in 22-23 were both unavailable for virtually the whole season.
Yeah.
And then we had a plethora of injuries on top of that as well.
Yeah, but it is crazy though, isn't it? It's only when you actually start to dissect the players of the Brucey era to the players of now. When you look at the J7 story.
Well, there was. If you remember, there was 9 Bruce players involved when we beat PSG 4-1.
PSG, yeah.
9. Crazy, man.
It's phenomenal. But again, I go back. Is that the occasion that brings out the best in players, or is it the Eddie Howe factor, or is it a combination of the two?
I think it's Eddie Howe.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. That's going to be the same with a cup match, isn't it? You look at the difference in standard of football from these said players that struggle to perform on a regular basis. Is it the occasion that also lifts the performance? And I think it's got to be. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of these players, the question was, and we asked the question on a previous show, which was, have the players got one eye on the cup? And that's why they're dropping performance.
That's the big worry.
So, isn't that the same thing? Is the drop-off because we haven't got the depth in squad to go in there and get stuck in 100% in every game because of the lack of bodies?
Well, I'm sure what Eddie would love to be able to do is turn around to these players if they're not given that. If he thinks that they are not putting 100% effort in a game because they've got one eye on Wembley, he would love to be in the position to say, right, hook.
Yeah, I'm pulling.
And by the way, you're there. If this kid comes in and does a job,
absolutely,
he'll be in there for Wembley.
Yeah. Well, you've seen what's at the drop off with Longstaff, haven't you? I mean, we've all said, yes, there was certain times that I can say he does a lot of running around, he pulls players out of position, but he doesn't do a lot regarding anything else. He gets the odd goal previously, but he hasn't done a thing in a season. Lewis Miley's come in, and to me, he's well in front of Sean Longstaff now. And I couldn't have said that a couple of years ago because obviously we hadn't got Miley. we'd got Anderson coming in, and I liked Anderson.
Yeah, me too.
But a lot of fans didn't like Anderson. They didn't think he had the quality.
My
and
son
yet, like I
thought
say,
he was pants.
well, absolutely, and that's what I said. You're never going to please everybody. We know that, but like I said, for me, it's all about you've got to work with what you've got at your availability, and if that's the team that Eddie's got to work with for the rest of this season, which it obviously is, one, we can't have injuries to any of the main players because the drop off in quality post that is gone, and two, we've just got to allow the lads to perform and try and not scream to the rafters about getting rid of the managers all the time, because I just don't think that is any way forward, because I just don't understand who can do a better job. Hence like I say, Unai Emery didn't even want the bloody job because we hadn't got the players.
Mm-hmm. There's a question for Gary Derrick. Which is the biggest priority between right winger or a centre back? We do need both. What's your shortlist for both positions? Well, right wing for me. Just no ifs, buts, or maybes. We need a right winger. Albeit that Murphy is still getting GAs all the way along the line, including Saturday, when he didn't have his best game, but still got the goal.
Yeah.
I think centre back. If we're let's say, we've got a limited budget, which by all accounts we haven't. Again, the reports coming out now are saying quite categorically that we've got 100 plus to spend in the summer. So I can't see why we can't do both. If we're going to go for an up and coming continental centre back, of which there are many. We've actually been talking about getting Houston from Bournemouth, but
that'd be my choice, I think, for 50
million.
Well,
Real Madrid are in for him now, apparently.
Well, yeah, exactly. But again, it's like I said.
But we missed the boat there when we could have had him from Juve last summer.
12 million. Or 12, 15 million, something.
And as far as preferences, my number one would be Jared Bowen. My number two would be Mbeumo.
Yeah, which we spoke about before, isn't it? I mean, that's what I said. Even like Mbeumo's agent has said the place to go to would be, well, the more feasible team to go to wouldn't be Liverpool or Arsenal. It would be to Newcastle, because the chances of playing at the bigger clubs is less, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. For me, if you've got the money to go and spend, if we have got this over 100 million to go and spend on, and again, what worries me is again the extension of PSR. It's they're still keeping the reins on us to try and hold us back for another season, where obviously we were going to go to the club cost player type of scenario, and because we haven't got a big squad, the cost of the players isn't as much as the big cartel players. They've stopped it straight away, because the gap between us and them then is available to spend. And I think for me it's a case of they will always stop or try and stop us moving forward, and that's the big thing for me. The cartel.
No,
the league is anti.
He has an interesting one from Nathan. This could be. We're going to start doing a new show called The Big Question, and it's not massive, I suppose, because it's purely hypothetical now.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical.
Would we have changed shape if we had said? Because obviously we were, heavily linked with Maddison, and he chose to go to Tottenham. It could have been very different. I'll tell you what, I honestly believe if Eddie had got a hold of Maddison, he would be the top player that we see in flashes for Spurs and we saw for Leicester. He would be that player week in. Well, obviously, we'd have an odd bad game, but week in, week out, he would be that top player. But yes, he would have had to play as a kind of 10, so there would have been a change in the format. Very interesting question.
Yeah, Foxy just said there, look, Maddison's currently the scapegoat at Spurs, and he is. He's getting lots of abuse from the fans saying he doesn't work hard enough. But the difference is, when people say Eddie Howe, and one of his biggest criticisms I've heard this season and obviously last season was he hasn't got a plan B. He struggles with a plan B. But again, these are the type of players that allow you to have a plan B. It's no good. It's no good trying to change it up when you haven't got the players to play the system that to play a plan B. That's how I look at it anyway. Because the drop off is phenomenal. The only player for me that you could potentially go and throw in there, and that's probably Willock playing in that hole, or maybe bringing Callum Wilson on up top or Rasula, and dropping Isak in the 10 slots. So there's always going to be an answer. I just don't. I just never see Eddie Howe wanting to play that player in the hole, in behind the midfield and in front of the defence. It doesn't seem to be Eddie Howe's way. He likes that solid three in midfield and a fluid pattern of play. But again, only time will tell.
Is Kelly still playing shite in Italy? Well, I don't know where this narrative's coming from, because he's averaging near enough 7.
He hasn't had the greatest couple of games when he come on, but again, he's got to have time to settle. But I haven't seen anything recently, which can only assume that he's doing okay.
Oh, well, there's Nathan coming to his rescue.
There you
great
go.
The other evening against Cagliari. Seems like the UVA fan base are taking to him.
There you go. That's what I said. It'd take a couple of games for him to get used to the style of play. Totally different to the Premier League. Anything else that you can see?
No, I'm just...
Because I'm just looking at the time. So
yeah, I know you need to be aware.
I think there's been some great chat, though. I must admit, I love the fact that everybody Villa struggling with consistency, like the whole league. Reality is they are still only 2 points off fifth. Things can change quick in this league. You're absolutely right. But again, I'll go to the point on if certain individuals aren't playing great, they have got the depth to change. And I think that is the difference, isn't it? With the likes of Villa. And yes, they've gone out there and bought in some great players on freebies to fill a hole. But 70% of wages, then going up to 90% of wages, it was never going to be viable for the likes of Rashford to come our way.
No.
But what's the lad's name from Luton, who we were linked to as well?
Who went to
Villa? Yeah,
from Barkley. Ross Barkley.
Ross Barkley. Yeah. See, he would have been another little one for me, just to.
Except he kind of get a sniff now.
He plays on the odd occasion. That's what I said. He does play in and out of the team, but that's Villa. That's what I said.
This is the other argument here. Can we just spend loads of money and take the fine as long as they don't relegate us? It's all good. How is it? Relegate? Take. Listen, this is what people are arguing. This is what Forest did.
Yeah.
They overspent, got a points deduction. But look at what they're doing now with the players that they overspent on.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think we need to be in Europe every season.
Yeah. I mean, this is
Fred
the crux
Jones,
now.
haven't seen you before.
Hello, Fred
can't predict scores anymore, as we don't know which side of the bed the players have got out of.
That's right.
We have a mentality issue, in my opinion. We know we have the skill, but that doesn't mean that they... To be continued.
Yeah.
Unless he's in further down, is he? Fred. Unless that doesn't mean that the players are guaranteed to turn up.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what we're doing now.
Welcome along, Fred, anyway. New name.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't forget, guys, because I am going to have to say ta-ra now.
Yeah.
Thanks ever so much for everybody that's in the chat. Thanks to everybody that's gifted. We've had lovely membership gifts today, so thank you all for that.
At Carlton, Connor, Trulls,
Yeah.
our own Chris.
Chris E. Bokey was part of the thing, wasn't he?
And of course, Connor joined us.
Connor joined us, yeah, exactly. So thank you all for your kind gifts. Again, please, just before you leave, throw us the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's totally free, and it just helps us further as a channel. But
consider joining the mighty new TTTV Plus membership and get all the extra content that we're going to be doing for that.
Superb. So again, thanks to one and all. Thanks to my mate Whitey Wind, like I say, doing a lot of the spreadsheet work there. Takes hours, some of this stuff that we do behind the scenes. So, like I say, thanks to all
the websites are specifically designed so you can't just copy and paste.
Yeah, it's all printed in. So, like I say, thanks to everybody. We are live at 7:15 tonight for the watch along. Please join us.
Away the lads! Come on, we're going to win at Anfield.
Absolutely. And if you haven't seen it, have a look at Kowal's goal at the under-21s match. Struck that beautifully. But until later, and we will. It'll goodbye from him.
Goodbye from him, and how are the lads?
Lassies and bairns, come on!